What's up, everyone? I'm just getting on here real quick just to give a short-handed explanation, hopefully as short as I can make it, as to why, when you're thinking about Zone Man of the Year, it sounds like a Player of the Year award, and he's probably going to be like around the same people who are going to be up for these awards. And and then my rankings are going to be reflective of that because Kaj and Emanuel Ross are both going to be the top two players in the 2024 class. I think that's unquestioned at this point. But when we're sitting here talking about a Player of the Year, for me, one of the things that I want to take into consideration is not only stats, but I want to take into consideration team success. Now, I'm sitting here talking about Bergen Catholic and Red Bank Catholic, two teams that have won state championships, right? So at this point, it's just like we're splitting hairs. But you have to ask yourself, if I took X player off this team, how would that team look if X player is not there, right? So we're asking ourselves this about Kaj and about Emanuel Ross. Well, first and foremost, I want to say shout out to Laquan Sanders, Coach Laquan Sanders. I want to say shout out to Kaj Sanders, shout out to Emanuel Ross, and shout out to his father, Joel Ross. I just want to say that I love both players. I love watching both players. They're both very monumental to both of their team success. But if we're splitting hairs here, again, Kaj is a solid safety. And then a very good running back, track speed, over 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, creating explosive plays on the ground consistently. He's ended games. So again, as I've said in previous clips that I've posted, I would not argue anyone if they said that Kaj was to be a Player of the Year candidate for whatever rewards you're talking about. But when you put him against Ross, some of the things that we have to take into consider is that Ross is their best receiver. He's their most explosive player. Not only is he their explosive player, he's their best defensive player. He's their best DB. And he comes up big in big moments. Now, that's not to say that Kaj hasn't. What I'm saying is that Ross is more important to his team's success than Kaj is to his team's success. Why do I say that? There is not another player on Red Bank Catholic that is as good as Ross. However, there is another player on Bergen Catholic who is as good as Kaj. Right? So if you took Kaj off the team, do you think that Bergen Catholic can still make some noise in the playoffs? I do. If you took Ross off of Red Bank Catholic, do you think that they can beat teams like Toms River North or a DeBall Catholic? I do not. Look at what Ross has done to teams like Toms River North. He ended them. Matter of fact, if you look at their last drive in overtime, again, in the Toms River game, he caught a screen pass that he took for like 20 yards. And not only that, he ended that game by catching like a 20, 30-yard touchdown, to end the game. And my point is that he consistently does this week in and week out, not only catching a myriad of passes, but also covering the team's best player. If you look at the championship game against DePaul, he caught their only touchdown. And then on top of that, he covered Des Jones for a majority of the game. Not to sit here and say Des had a trash stat line, but Ross played excellent defense against him and created a tough time for Des essentially to get his rocks off like he usually do in games. So that's just really the shorthand version of it. And then, like I said, if I'm just comparing Ross to Kaj, like I don't see Kaj, covering team's best receiver. Now, that's not what he's asked to do. He's asked to be a playmaking safety and a game-changing running back. However, if you look at what Ross is asked to do, again, I'll roll down the list again. He's their best. He's the most explosive player. He's their best wide receiver. He's their best corner. He's their best defensive player. And he comes up big in big moments. So, again, that's just the very shorthand version as to why, I believe that Ross, if you're considering any Player of the Year type awards, I believe that criteria needs to be, considered. And as long as they're not giving it to the offensive lineman, not to say that New Jersey Sports Zone has done that before, but I've seen Player of the Year awards where they've given it to offensive linemen. And at some point, I understand that name matters, but we have to take in consideration actual football, and consider that, it's tough to have an offensive lineman as your Player of the Year. But that's just my small take. And I just want to, hear you guys' thoughts. I'm pretty sure y'all going to have them after this. So, hit me up on Twitter and let me know how you feel.